This is Matt Casalo with the RhinestoneWorld.com.
It's Richard Greaves with ScreenMaking.com.
This is Stacy Marshall with Printwear Magazine.
Brian Walker with RTP Apparel.
And you're listening to Two Regular Guys
Podcast.
Hosted
by Aaron Montgomery and Terry Combs.
Keep on listening.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. It is Friday, December 18th, 2020. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. Today, Terry and I are going to be talking about planning for business, personal success, just getting the year wrapped up, getting 2020 in the rear view, so to speak, and reflecting on, hey, we're still alive, we're still here.
Exactly. And you know, Aaron, we also have 5 things that also reflect on planning for the new year as well. So that's very well timed, contributed by Joe Ortnow, and looking forward to hearing those at the end of the show as well.
Yeah, I appreciate Joe sending those in. I put a late post up on our Facebook page last night calling for 5 things, people. So if you guys want to be a part of this, we've got all the shows next year too that you can participate in the 5 things, an opportunity to get the conversation stared and share something with the community. A rising tide raises all boats, right? So
exactly. Wait, we're doing this for a 9th year? Did we talk about that?
Yeah. Well, we were going to do planning after this show, so that's when I was going to talk you into a 9th year, and then and we'll have to discuss Eric's pay too. So yeah,
I think we should double what we're paying him now. But,
at least
if it fits in the budget.
So good morning to Christine. Thank you for being here. Happy Friday to you as well, and Cindy. Good morning. And as we just alluded to, we have Eric in the comments, and I appreciate him doing all the stuff that he does for us. Richard, good morning. Christine says 1 week before Christmas. So there you go. For those of you with the countdown 1 week. I saw something this morning, 6 sleeps 1 week. But to me, the real number is 13 days till the end of the year. So
exactly.
Yeah. And we also have Gusta checking in, and Todd, and Jim, you'll have to help us understand what LLC is. Something, I don't know. So
maybe he's going to turn into a limited liability
company. I want to go to a limited liability corporation in 2020. That could be it. Okay. We'll go with that. Good morning, Joe. Thanks again for the 5 things submission. And Christine, yes, you absolutely 100% should do a 5 things. So what else we got? Oh, we got James Ortolani checking in. Good longtime friend. Appreciate seeing you here, James, and Michael and Justin. And Todd says, just about done Christmas shopping. Only mom left and waiting for Terry's book to drop so I can get it for her. So
there you go. Did you buy her the last one? Sometimes Jennifer.
Yeah, you can just buy her that one. There you go. Nice.
It's available right now.
Awesome. All right, Terry. Well, what? Oh yeah. Okay. Jim said yes. Limited liability corp. Oh, good. Cool. That's a great idea, Jim.
Yesterday I did a webinar with Chris from ACG Finance. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Morgenthaler goes, we were trying to theorize what ACG stands for, and Terry had an idea, and I said, yeah, Chris, is it all credit good? He just stared at the screen. No, it's not that.
It's not that. Okay, good.
All right.
Good. Well, what news do we got there, Terry?
Yeah, registration is officially now open for the Impressions Connect. It's a virtual trade show experience, taking the time slot of the Long Beach Impressions Expo. You can connect with suppliers, discover new products and techniques, and learn from industry legends and brands. It's going to be January 25th through 29th. And you can get more information about that at impressionsconnect.com. And we have a registration link as well. So
yep. You can check that. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be great, Terry. Apparently we're legends now. I like that.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. I didn't know if you came up with that wording or,
No,
or they did.
I took that right off of their sponsored post actually on Facebook. So great stuff. And Terry, as you mentioned, this isn't replacing Long Beach. It's going to be in that same time slot that Long Beach normally is, but
Correct.
Long Beach will be happening in April as
Correct.
of all dates subject to change as we know in our COVID world. But as of right now, they're planning on I can't remember the exact dates in April, but I think later on in April is
Right.
when that show's scheduled to be happening. So you can get all the details over there at Impressions Connect, impressionsmag.com. Just type into Impressions and you'll find out all the information about everything they've got going on there. They're working hard to really have a fantastic 2021 for all of us. So
I don't have my big book of travel here. I can tell you the exact dates, but for 2021, I'm calling it the Big Book of Good Intentions. So.
The Big Book of Good Intentions. That sounds like many nights that we were at the bar.
It always seemed like a good idea.
In fact, that could be the book that we write, Terry, about our travels. The Big Book of Good Intentions. So Eric is a legend as well. He's got a class there at Impressions. So, and he followed that up in asking, it's science or is it intention? So, something.
I think it's science.
All right, it is.
So
science.
You have a dad joke for us.
I do have a dad joke for us. In fact, it comes with graphics, and so here we go. Terry, why can't you trust a burrito?
I don't know. Why can't you trust a burrito?
Because it will spill the beans. And the graphic, I thought maybe gave it away, but we did it fast enough that it worked. So, so here's the regulators. We need your feedback. Should the dad jokes continue into 2021, being the last show of 2020 here? That could be the last dad joke, depending on what you guys, the regulators, want. So get out there and post on social media, hashtag regulators, and let us know whether you want to keep the dad jokes or if we've had enough for 2020.
And yeah, Aaron, as you mentioned, this is our last show of the year, even though it's only the 18th, because Christmas Day is next Friday and New Year's Day is the Friday after that. So we'll be back in January and with starting off the year great with some trademark and copyright information.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And more. Yeah, for sure. So, so far, overwhelmingly, yes, Terry, in the comments on the dad jokes. So
very nice.
We've found our home. I love it.
All right. Aaron, before we dive in, we want to thank everyone for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We are always looking for new guests. If you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2. That's the number 2, regular guys, with your show ideas. And if you're listening to the podcast version, we would appreciate you sharing with your friends so they can become regulators too. Plus, we would love and appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening. And we are also now on Amazon Podcasts. If you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and questions and your ideas for planning for 2021, and reach out to your industry friends so they can join us too.
Absolutely. And James says yes on the jokes. Try to make them industry specific, please. So if you have industry specific dad jokes, we will need those. We'll need a catalog of those, please.
They should start with 3 screen printers walk into a bar.
And then 3 embroiderers show up and and then we go from there. Or maybe it's a screen printer, an embroiderer, and because then you have the same kind of jokes as the priest or rabbi. And
right.
All right. Eric says everything starts with screen printers in a bar. So,
well, yeah, this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Everything related to Two Regular Guys.
At least one screen printer in a bar.
I've screen printed before.
Oh, that's true. You have.
Not well.
Not well, yeah.
So when you share the part about there's a lot of screen printers, there's just not a lot of good screen printers. I'm standing over in the not a lot of good screen printers. But that was never my thing. I never showed up in this industry to be a screen printer. So I enjoy it. I think it's awesome. And I will buy screen printing. How about that? All right. Well, Terry,
All
let's
right.
dive into the planning here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, for me, Terry, it's really good to be back. I missed this show last year. I was putting in. I pretty sure it was close to 100 hours a week. I know that sounds crazy, but it literally was. I mean, there were times where I was sleeping there. So it's good to be back. Appreciate Eric filling in. Kind of was that last minute for me last year. I just kind of had got to a point where like, guys, I'm out. I'm out of gas. Can you help? And so really appreciate Eric doing that for me. And it was a great show. I checked it out later. But, you know, as you guys know out there, the regulars know out there, Terry and I are big time into planning. Terry with his notebooks and the big book of travels and all this sort of stuff. And you know, he's a business planner as well. And I love business planning, all things business planning. So this has always been a show that we've done annually that I really enjoy because it makes me really think about the things that I need to do for myself. And I love exploring this. So today, Terry, we've got a really nice mix of kind of things to think about. You know, you've brought some really practical ideas to the table, and I appreciate that because I'm kind of in that big picture, personal, maybe even wooey stage right now in my planning. So right. It's nice to bring those two mixes together. But Terry, I thought maybe we should start by just maybe briefly sharing the bullet points from the last 2 years of planning, because I think they're all still valid too. So you want to start us off by maybe sharing what you and Eric talked about last year?
Yeah, absolutely. The bullet points that I brought up last year is number one was be your own consultant, and I actually used that before. We've done this planning show every year, Aaron, as part of Two Regular Guys, and and that's always true. You know, being your own consultant, and not to belabor it again, but it simply means, you know, walk around your shop or your business, take time away, and imagine you're looking at your business with fresh eyes and outsider eyes. And you know, Aaron, I've in the past done a lot of consulting, and most of the things that I brought up to the business owners were things that they already knew. They just hadn't done anything about it, and they needed somebody to come in and say that. You know, I've told this story before, but I had someone. The guy was getting kind of red-faced as I'm sharing my 40-page report with him, and he goes, Terry, 80% of this we already knew, and I'm like, I know, and you paid me to come and tell you because you haven't done anything about it. So you know, be your own consultant. How did that go,
by the way, after that?
He actually offered me a job, and I stayed there for 6 more years. I was there for 2 weeks and stayed for 6 years.
All right. That actually worked out. Good.
It did work out. My next point, and as you said, mine are kind of practical. Be an order that travels through your process in your facility. Basically, walk through your facility as if you're an order and see what the bottlenecks are, and see if there are things that you're doing that don't need to be done. You know, simplify your process. And my last item was map out by month how to improve your company culture. Then Eric talked about know yourself, know your shop. Questions to ask yourself if you're stuck on planning and analysis. Number 2 was prefigure, prepare, envision your year. And his third point, plan your actionable steps to get the resources you need to make the changes you need to make. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was like I said. I finally, after things slowed down into 2020, there early on in the year, I had a chance to go back and watch that. If any of you guys, regulators, want to go watch these again, like Terry said, I didn't go back and look, but I think we have done them every year. So this would be the 8th time we're doing this, if that's the case. But if you just go back over to tworegularguys.com and you type planning into the search box at the bottom, you got to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and there's a little search box down there, and you can type in planning and go listen to those again, check them out, check the show notes, and read all that. So, and then Terry, 2 years ago, when at the end of 2018, you and I had this conversation, you started off with new mindset for a changing marketplace. That the time isn't at hand. Little did we know that we were a year away from real change.
I know.
So you were ahead of your time, Mr. Damas.
when I read that last night, I kind of laughed. I thought, "Holy crap, that was a prophecy." You're right.
Yeah, exactly. We need to get you one of those. Okay. Micromanagement, self-evaluation. I think that just kind of going back and understanding what areas that you were too close to, that you were too involved with, potentially. And
our running joke is the book we're going to write: How to Micromanage Your Business to Success.
It'll be the most unsuccessful book in the history of books. And then the third topic you had were bonuses and rewards for your staff, thinking about putting those into place and how to do it. And you really explained a lot. Eric just said the book, Micromanaging Your Way to Success, it's blank. That's a good idea. And then so those are your 3 points there. New mindsets for changing marketplace. The time is at hand. Second was micromanagement, self-evaluation. Third, bonuses, rewards for your staff. My number one was, do you have a business plan? Really kind of getting into hitting home the fact that all businesses need to have a business plan. Second one was be more customer-centric. I think you guys know my personal take on quality business management is really focusing on your customers, and the more customer-centric you can be, though it may seem counterintuitive, it's actually more profitable for your business because you have better relationships, longer relationships with your customers. And then third, learn to say no. And I'm still learning that. So, but yes, we all need to learn to say no a little bit more. So,
well, look, you're here and you're not working 100 hours a week right now. So
there you go. There you go. It was a start. It was a start. So Terry, would you just maybe kind of summarize the last 2 years for us, and then we'll get into this year?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what we're really talking about here, Aaron, is all the things we know we should be doing, but we choose to allow the day-to-day business to distract us from doing anything about it. And I think part of it is it's easier to allow yourself to get caught up in the day-to-day than to make those hard decisions. Sit down and say, you know, here's where I am, here's where I need to be, how I'm going to get there. And it's kind of a bury your head in the sand. And I think that a lot of people do it subconsciously. I think that looking and feeling busy is an escape from planning for the future. When in fact, and it's hard for you and me, Aaron, because we're big planners, and so, man, I love sitting down and taking my junior yellow legal pad and writing down 20 things that I'm going to change about my business, or 20 things I'm going to change about my life in the coming year. And when you do that, and I've talked about that process before, but if you sit down and number 1 through 20 and you don't get up until you write down 20, and the first 3 or 4 are stupid, but as you go and you force yourself to write down these ideas, there's a gem in there somewhere, and you're like, sure. Yeah, I should be doing this. This is a way to move forward. So,
and that gem in there, Terry, just before you get beyond that, is a lot of times what I found when I do that, because I have borrowed that process from you, and like you said, you kind of get off the starting gate, and you're like, whatever, it's kind of stupid, but just I'm writing. And like I said, there's a gem in there. And what I found is towards the end, when you feel like you're out of ideas, you're actually kind of regurgitating that gem in different ways. And so that to me is how I always kind of go back and find the gem in there. It's like, wait a second, which is the pattern? Which two things seem the same? So anyhow, I appreciate you sharing that technique and letting you steal it.
Sure. All right. Well, we ready to jump in?
Yeah, we are, Terry. And just one more thing about like kind of getting caught up in the crisis and stuff like that. I think the other thing that happens for folks, and I'm probably just speaking from my own personal experience, but my guess is other people have this too, is that as much of a planner as I like to be, I also like to feel productive. And so to be able to kind of get into that crisis and check it off and get it done and solve the problem. And that stuff feels great. But again, where is your time more valuable? When I'm doing that, when somebody else could be doing that, or maybe I'm making a crisis that doesn't even need to be there, or, just getting busy work done. You have to always step back and look at the bigger picture. So, appreciate you bringing that up.
Aaron, and here's an example of that. I took a management course where basically it was about time management, and every night we'd go to talk about our businesses, and I did a process where every 15 minutes I had to write down what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I went back to the class, and then you had to categorize it, and add it all up. I was spending 60% of my time scheduling production. 60%. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And the instructor said, well, could you hire somebody to do that? I mean, could you teach someone to do it? I'm like, oh yeah, I can just teach somebody to do it in 5 minutes. And she was like, well, why don't you do that? And I'm like, well, I'm going to go back and do that. And I hired a mom who worked during the school hours and scheduled all of our production. And suddenly I was free to do a lot more managing of the business. So, sometimes you have to do this, and you don't realize how your time is consumed until you start tracking it.
Yeah. That's awesome that you bring that up. I actually am back to, so I use this thing called Toggle. It's a time tracker app that you can put on your it's a Chrome. It's got apps for your phone and all that other stuff. And for a while there, I was kind of like keeping track of everything. And then I kind of, okay, I've got an idea, and but I started feeling like I'm back to not really being as productive as I could be. So I'm now back to tracking all of my time. And like you said, you go back, you review, you understand what you're spending your time on, what you could be doing more of, so that actually leads me right into the very first one for this year, if that works out for you.
Absolutely.
So the first thing that I'm looking at for planning for the next year is just kind of checking the work-life balance, and like you said, Terry, kind of prioritizing. I think, like I said, I'm feeling a little bit of this lack of balance, but I imagine that a lot of other people are feeling that too, because of all the changes. Routines have been messed up, and then on the flip side of that, from the changes, you also have the fact that now all of a sudden, for a lot of people, you're quarantined at home. Kids are being homeschooled. Some of this quote unquote work-life balance was kind of forced on you. You weren't at work kind of hiding away from the kids and stuff like that. So, I think for me, and looking at it and kind of trying to understand a little bit about, what does that mean? What's important? What are the priorities? Why are we doing what we're doing? And we'll get into some of that. So for me, a big part of this is just kind of reflecting on that. We've definitely had a lot more time at home with our son. I'm back to working from home pretty much full time now. And, so as much as my wife probably is not always thrilled about having me around all the time, we kind of can like check in on each other at any point, so yeah, kind of looking to that. So I guess trying to find what's important and how to make that balance, so for example, for me, I'm super driven to make our success group the best I can make it, and I'm really empowered by the mission that we've set up for that. And I'm also, at the same time, though, very aware of the need to, I can't pull all-nighters and all the time. I have to stop and make sure that, I'm going to the volleyball practice, or I'm, we're going to try to get up to a Christmas thing. They've got, I don't know if Santa's in a bubble, but everything's cordoned off and there's social distancing and all that other stuff. But it's something that we want to do as a family. So, I guess to me, just kind of checking your priorities. The quote that I wrote down that I kind of, and I don't know where it came from or if I just made it up in my head, but I'm sure I heard it somewhere, is, don't work to live, but instead work to live. And then I added my best life. So that's the first planning bit that I want to do, is just kind of understand what my priorities are.
And Santa and a bubble, Nerf guns are okay, apparently. So I don't know if you saw that.
No, I haven't seen that one yet. I will go look for that, though. That sounds
a little
hilarious.
4-year-old boy who cried because the Santa goes, no guns of any type. So needless to say, the Hasbro people sent him lots of Nerf guns.
Excellent. Very, very well played, Hasbro. I'm going to take advantage of that. I'll have to look at that. I haven't seen that yet. I'm in my own little bubble, apparently.
Exactly. But my next one, or my first one, I guess, is a little more practical in that, there are trade shows scheduled as soon as March. My guess, and this is just based on nothing but my observations, is I don't think that we're going to see any trade shows before May or June, and which means that you're not going to be able to go to a show and kick the tires. I mean, a lot of like Equipment Zone, for example, there's a whole showroom in New Jersey that no one's allowed to go into. They're not letting anyone in the building.
Yeah. And
it's a little different here in Arizona. I mean, we're doing live demos and things like that here, but you're not going to be able to go out there and kick the tires. So you still need to buy equipment. You still need to buy new supplies. You still need the new products. So a couple of things that you can do: ask for samples, and people will bend over backwards right now to work with you on that type of thing. Ask for references, and gosh, Aaron, this is you've seen it too. So many people get burned by a slick salesman, a predatory salesman, a sales rep.
Yeah,
and come and talk to us and say things like, gosh, I just had no idea, and look for references, go out there and look on the internet for people's comments on particular products or equipment, that sort of thing. If someone says to you, when you ask for references, we don't give out the names of any of our customers, then there's a reason they don't want you to talk to any of their customers. So, and the other thing is video demos. Everybody now is a Zoom expert. Ask for demos of equipment, that sort of thing. And a lot of folks, like if it's printing equipment, they'll demonstrate it, and the garments that they printed, then they'll send those to you. So, you can still go out and yeah, I know we all like to walk around a trade show and, as I said, kick the tires, but that's not going to be a viable option. And to be honest, I don't know how many, I don't know if every supplier that you saw at a trade show last year is going to necessarily be at a show, even if that show happens. So there are ways that you can purchase in a COVID world, and just make sure that you're doing your homework just the way you did when you walked into a trade show.
Yeah, that's good point. And when you talked about the samples there, Terry, it's also, I think, important to make sure that you're getting samples of your art, the stuff that you do regularly. I've seen way too many times where people are like, oh my God, look at this great sample I got. And, but there was probably some magic. I mean, I would like send a sample and to say, okay, if you're going to tweak this at all, I need you to tell me exactly what you're going to do to make that, give me the full rundown too. I'm fine doing the steps to make this work, but I need to know what those are after I buy this equipment from you.
Yeah. And again, I use Equipment Zone as an example because we do a lot of sampling. If somebody sends a piece of art, we'll normally print it the way they sent it. And then if it needs to be tweak that artwork and send that also, and then have that conversation. Okay, here's your art. Here's how this would have turned out if you produced it yourself on this equipment. Here's what we did to it to make it better. And so again, that's an excellent point, Aaron, that said your art, because whoever's out there producing samples, they are using the absolute best possible artwork to show what that equipment can do. So
yeah, they've probably printed hundreds, if not thousands, of samples, and there's some real dogs that are sitting under a table somewhere, or they made it into a trash can.
Exactly.
I know, because I've been there. I've done that.
Right.
Well, that's really, yeah. And I think that will be a very interesting thing to see is, and I know a lot of equipment purchases were still made in 2020, and I see, heck, you look at some of the sublimation stuff out there, Epson can't keep their sublimation printers in stock.
Right.
And they've got some new stuff coming and I know Sawgrass had some challenges keeping stuff in stock and people really getting into it. And, so
all the heat press companies are 2 to 4 weeks out. The dryers, 4, 6, 8 weeks out. So, and part of it's COVID, but part of it, I'll tell you this: I've had my best sales year ever in 2020. So, for what that means. Yeah. And I think part of it is people who don't want to be at the mercy of being employed. So they say, I'm gonna sink or swim on my own and start businesses. And so there are a lot of business startups in 2020, surprisingly.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it does make sense from that vantage point, Terry. I mean, you've got a situation where, people are probably getting laid off, if they can't go in or, their place of employment was shut down, or now they're working from home and they don't have that same connection to the company that they were working for. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, getting into business for yourself is kind of appealing right now.
Yeah, Aaron, I've been teaching screen printing classes for many years, and every time there's an economic downturn, I have waiting lists to get into my screen printing classes. So, it's just a perfect example of what's happened in 2020.
Totally. All right. So, regulators, as you guys have things, comments, go ahead and put them in there. What things you're looking at? What things similar to what Terry and I are talking about are you guys looking at planning for the next year? Jim says, Terry, people just love you. So, that's why it's. And then when I was talking about the all-nighters, Dot Tone Dan said, oh, I thought I was the only one still doing all-nighters. Good to know I'm not alone. Yes, you are definitely not alone. We were actually talking to Eric pre-show, and he looks surprisingly good for having zero sleep. So.
Right. Well, when I teach my screen printing classes, there's a certain point I always say, so, when you're printing at 2 a.m., and you will be printing at 2 a.m. Just let me tell you that now, because being an entrepreneur gives you the freedom to work all the hours there are in the day.
I also stole that one from you too, by the way. Just I'm sorry, I borrowed it, gave you credit the first time, and then after that,
nothing.
Right. Yeah, you taught me that as well, so I blame you.
Exactly.
All right. So the next thing I'm looking at, again, a really nice mix of practical, not talking down about what I mean. These are things that Terry's bringing up here are very practical, and we need a lot of that. We got to understand the actual nuts and bolts of what are we going to do for equipment. Some of the things you've said in years past. Like I said, I'm just at that phase where there's some other things I want to also be looking at. I want to make sure that I'm covering the entire gamut as well. And the next part for me that I'm looking at is, are the things that you're doing, your business, or if you're working for somebody or whatever, are they checking the boxes for you? And what that really means, Terry, is it fulfilling to you? So I always kind of say, is it checking the boxes? Because to me, I've got a kind of a set of values, some things I want to do, some things that fulfill me. And I want to make sure that what I'm doing is checking those boxes. So that's the first thing that's the second thing I want to look at as I'm kind of looking for planning into the next year is, because I hear a lot of people that have, started businesses or they have a business or whatever. And, you ask them, well, why did you start your business? And they say, oh, to make money. And I normally don't. I occasionally, if I've had a drink or two, I'll call BS, but it's baloney to me. I don't think that's true. There's a lot of different ways to make money than going and starting a business. And there's probably some hacks or whatever, so there's now obviously you want to make money in your business and that's important. But I think what really the reason why people just kind of go, oh, I wanted to do it to make money. Well, why do you want to make money? Is it the family? There's a harder reason. There's a different reason that's kind of harder to find underneath all of it. What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that fulfills you? That's where the checking the boxes, because like I said, if it's just about the money, I would say if you're at a stage where you're willing to start a business, you can probably also go find a job, which to me stands for just over broke. So I guess you're looking at that, is it fulfilling? Like we were talking about all the hours and stuff that I was putting in. I just had kind of discovered that it wasn't checking the boxes for me. But my biggest problem was I didn't know what the boxes were that I was trying to check. And so it just felt unfulfilling. So I guess this part of the planning to me is go out and figure out what is fulfilling and put words to it. What do you truly value? It's one thing to say, oh yeah, this is kind of what I do, but can you actually like put words to it, write a paragraph about it? So what do you want to be a part of, or what do you want to create? That's where I'm at in my phase of planning.
Well, I like that. And you're right about it. It's funny because, again, talking to Chris Frame yesterday at ACG, he'll ask people, well, why are you starting this business when he's trying to finance somebody as a startup? And he said, if your answer is because my brother does this business and he makes good money at it, that's the wrong answer. Yeah. I think that's kind of the same thing. It's got to be more than that. But, I worked with a company once where the owner said, I don't understand why all the employees don't think like an entrepreneur like me. And I said to him, well, if they did, they wouldn't be working here. They'd have their own business. So, you have to get into the right mindset. You're a different animal. And, some people are built to be entrepreneurs and some people aren't. So you have to decide. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that, if you're out there working for somebody, it can't be fulfilling,
Oh, sure.
That's equally as important. If what I was doing was really fulfilling for me, I'd probably still be doing that instead of have started our success group. So, that there's definitely nothing against working for somebody. Is it fulfilling enough for you? And if not, why are you doing that to yourself? And it can't just be about the money. Right. So let's see here. A couple quick comments, Terry, before I let you get to your next one here. Eric says, I know a lot of folks moving a small business into the garage, extra bedroom, et cetera. I've helped a lot of folks learn digitizing in their lockdown time too. And then Christine shares, I think at this point, we all use the Terry's hours of the day quote and Aaron's rising tide raises all boats quote. It's kind of a regulator signature. Yeah, I guess you could go out there and look around and see who's, putting stuff out there. And if they use either of those things, we go, yeah, they've watched the two regular guys before. What's next, Terry, for you?
Well, Aaron, I think it's time for us to start firing.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm talking about customers, not employees. Talking about firing customers. And it's hard in downtime if you're actually suffering at downtime right now, and not everybody is. People should be aware that there are some businesses that are just going through the roof right now. I know someone here in Phoenix that put on a third shift and doubled their equipment capacity, and because they found they were in the proper niche to start with and being very successful. But we all have customers that number one might drive us crazy, and we spend 80% of our time trying to appease this customer. Or maybe we have a customer that's outside of what we're really good at. And because it's especially when you start a business, anybody that walks in the door, you're pretty much like, yeah, okay, I can do that. I can do that. But you reach a point where, and I'll give you an example. When I was at Jones & Mitchell Sportswear in Kansas City, we were experts at 48 to 72 piece orders. We were doing $13.5 million in sales 48 to 72 pieces. That was our niche. Then the sales manager decided that he wanted to kind of veer off and get business in the resort market. And the orders were coming in 1,000, 5,000. And you'd think, well, this is going to be an easy transition. This is going to be easy to do because it's just the same thing, just more shirts. My 75 production floor employees were falling over themselves trying to get 1,000 pieces out the door. Now, 72 pieces, they could set it up, print it, and tear it down, but before they finished their soda that was sitting on the work table. So that was our niche. That's what we were good at. By trying to get into a really different type of production, it was really difficult for us. So we were way better off to find more 48 to 72 piece order customers, if that makes sense. And so, take a look at, number one, if you have a customer that's driving you crazy, cut them loose. Yeah. Because there are too many good customers out there, and replace them. And here's how you do it. We're making some changes, and we're not going to be able to fit your production into our schedule for next year. But here are a couple of options of people who might be able to help you. And if you have a competitor that you don't necessarily like very much, give it to them. Give that name.
I may or may not have done that before in the past, Michael.
It's as I said, there's too many good customers out there, and I've certainly fired some well-known customers out there that you would say, oh my God, you let that customer go. I did, because they drove me insane. And like I said, most customers are great to work with. Don't waste your time with customers that are difficult. And again, also customers that are outside of your niche.
Yeah. So yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And when you're talking about, good customers, and what might be a good customer for me won't be the same good customer for Terry, or however that works. So just because, they were doing a bunch of business with somebody else doesn't mean that they're going to be a specific fit. I remember when Colorado Timberline went out of business, that, there were some pretty big customers that were now without a printer. Right. And, they were kind of hitting everybody up. I was in that space at the time. And there was a couple of them where, they came in, they were, we've got all this business. We're going to give you bazillions of dollars worth of business. And then you start looking at it and you're like, I know why Colorado Timberline went out of business now. Dealing with customers like you, because they had this contract, and if you were late or if the post office didn't deliver it, they were fining you. I mean, at a certain point, you're kind of going, I'd love the business, but how can we do this so it's profitable? And so, we just kind of held the line. It's like, hey, we'd love to work with you. Here's what we can do. Here's our capabilities. Here's what we can take from you. Here's how we can help you out. We're not going to sign the contract. And, so if that's a problem, then I guess we're kind of at an impasse here. And so same thing with, and it's your business. So when, like Terry said, hey, 2021 is a perfect time to kind of have those times like, okay, we just got through the year. We're ready to start the next year. And, here's some of the changes that we're going to make. And like Terry said, we don't have time for you in our production schedule any longer. Or my favorite thing to do was raise the prices to a point where they just self-selected, because if you can get the price high enough, sometimes you can deal with a crummy customer if you feel like it. But I don't know. Then at what point are you selling your soul? I don't know.
Right.
So that's a great one, Terry. I thought you were going to fire me from Two Regular Guys, so I'm glad we clarified that. It was a little
I saw Eric had his finger on the button to make his picture pop up there.
He was ready to come on and right. All right, I made the cut. I like it. All right, Terry. So the third thing for me is as far as the planning goes here, is I'm looking at discovering or refining my why. We kind of talked a little bit earlier about, kind of why are you doing this? But this to me is even a little bit deeper than that. And honestly, the the three that I put out here today, Terry, are kind of all tied together for me. I want to first, I'm going to define my priorities, kind of figure out what's important to me. The second thing that we talked about was kind of determining what your values are, kind of the vision, what you see. But this part takes that one more step and really kind of like putting into language why you're doing this. Why the heck are we? Because it's not always easy, right? If being in business was easy, everybody would do it. And
Right.
So it's not always easy. And so why the heck are we doing this? Like I said, I had 90, 100 hours a week and pay was good and all this other stuff. But came to that point where I just had no idea why we were doing what we were doing, and back to what we talked about before. If it's about the money, you can just go find a job, or, there's other ways to kind of do that without putting in 100 hours a week. So, and the interesting part for me about that whole kind of discovery of this why was that I had the support of my family. Kylene and Lewis were spending time there as well. They were all on board. It wasn't like they were going, you got to get out of this. This is not good for our family life. They were supporting me, but there just wasn't a why. There just was no guiding principle for me that made it, worth the pain. I think as humans, we will put ourselves through a whole lot of stuff that's uncomfortable if there's a good enough reason for it, So at the end of the day, kind of simply finding what your why is actually very easy. But it's not, I'm sorry, it's actually very simple. I got those flipped. It's actually very simple, but it's not easy. Meaning it's not easy because we have to be really honest with ourselves. It takes soul searching. It takes some things that can be uncomfortable for us. And honestly, when I got deeper into this through the stuff I'm doing with Success Principles and Jack Canfield and stuff like that, I've really come to discover that it's basically about having these conversations both internally and with the people around us that come from a part of our brain that doesn't really have language capability. And our language capability comes from our animal brain, and our animal brain just doesn't like to have those feeling type conversations, So it's not easy, but the formula is actually really simple. A why statement for people that will really stick for them. And the formula is super simple. In fact, I got this out of the book, Finding Your Why, which came as the follow-up, even though it's the first part of what was the other one? The other Simon Sinek book, Finding Your Why, Start With Why, was his first book. And then everybody's like, oh, that's really cool that you talk about starting with why, but how the hell do I find my why? So he came out with that book. And the formula there is really simple. It's to, and then you fill in what your contribution is, so that, and then whatever the impact of your contribution is going to be. So, for example, my why is to provide resources that empower business owners to achieve their idea of success. So it's to provide resources that empower, so that the impact, it empowers business owners to achieve their idea of success. So the formula is really simple. It just took a whole lot of work to get to that point. So finding your why, discovering your why is my next part that you should spend some time working on before you get into 2021.
And I love the last part of that where you say their idea of success, because success for me isn't necessarily success for you or for the next person or the next person. So that's an excellent point to kind of to think about.
Yeah, and that particular statement, it is getting to a point where it's kind of falling off the tongue, but I mean, it's been all over the place. You should see all the different revisions that I've had, and I could sit down and do some stuff, but for me, that process has actually been a couple years in the works. So again, I'm not saying you can go out and do this, but spend some time on it, because the more you do it, the more you'll be able to make those little tweaks that make it more important, and connect with people and things like that. So just spend some time writing that down. Keep rewriting it as often as you can until you get to something that just it'll feel right. I wasn't ever at a certain point. I'm like, I don't have a purpose, so I don't have a special purpose, Terry. I was ready to give up, and then finally it just kind of light bulb went off.
So anybody who has not seen the movie The Jerk, that's where that line is from, having a special purpose.
We may be dating ourselves at that point,
Yeah,
Terry.
probably.
All right. What do you got for us then now, Terry?
Okay. Well, this is simply what worked and what didn't work in 2020. What worked and what didn't work in a very special COVID year. We should do this anyway. At the end of every year, what worked marketing wise, what products worked, what products didn't work. You kind of have to reflect, and some things are successful and some things aren't, and it's a different marketing world. So you really just need to sit down and think about your products, think about how you sell your products, think about you obviously had some successes this year, or you're not still in business. So reflect on that. And again, this is something that we should always be doing. And I hate to even say think outside the box. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago with the Crystal Ninja.
Yeah, think inside the box.
She was inside the box, dude.
Yeah,
putting all those rhinestones in that elevator. But it's 2 years ago I said it's a changing marketplace, and it's still changing yet more. But remember too, a lot of people out there have had their best year ever in 2020, and so the opportunities are there. You just maybe have to again think outside the box about what was successful and how can I multiply that? How can I build on that and cast the rest aside? So sit down over the holidays and think about what was successful for you and what wasn't successful, and let's move forward with what we were successful with.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I like, because Terry, as you said, things are, you were talking about things changing 2 years ago, and obviously they changed a lot this year. They're going to continue to change, but even in those times where things seem pretty stable, there's no reason that you shouldn't be changing. We're not talking about, people that have been very successful and quote unquote pivoted. Some of them made some pretty big changes, but at the same time, some of them just kind of doubled down on what was important to them. And like you said, pushed aside the stuff that didn't work, and just really focused in on what does work for them. Not everybody printed masks and they were still successful.
Right.
So it's I think that's a really good point, Terry. In fact, as you were talking about that, I actually put together a little, I don't know, white paper ebook kind of thing. It's just a really short little, but it's 20 questions to ask for the year-end review. And
oh, great.
Yeah, so I am charging for it. I've Terry, you finally got me to that point. So where I've got that. So if you'll go to, in fact, Eric, I didn't put this up earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the comments right there. If you go to oursuccessgroup.com/resources, and then I will, before we get done with the show here, there's a coupon code that'll get you $5 off of it. It's only like $9 to begin with, but I've got a coupon code for $5 off. I just can't remember it off the top of my head here right now. So it's actually comes from something that my wife and I do personally every year, but then I've tweaked that and brought that into also looking at your business planning and things like this question here, Terry, what worked and what didn't. That kind of thing. So
well, and Aaron, like having your 20 questions, some people need a starting point, to they sit down with their junior yellow legal pad, like I have right here, and
yeah.
and then they stare at it because they don't know where to start. So having a guide like you're talking about is an excellent first step in starting your process, because once you get started, then it flows, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's been times where you sit down and again, you're like, oh, I can't do this. And then, you run across something, a question, or you find something and you start, and then from there, it's like, oh my God, the floodgates are open. I could be here all week.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Terry, as you mentioned, our 5 things continues this. But let's real quick get our intro for 5 things. And then would you do the honors of sharing Joe's 5 things? And while you're doing that, I will actually track down this coupon code. How about
Perfect.
that?
Perfect.
All right. Let's intro the 5 things and then we'll jump right into it.
All right. I love your intro.
It is kind of catchy, isn't it?
All right. So Joe gave us 5 things to do if you are slow in January. Number 1, clean your shop. Nothing gives a better first impression for customers than this. And he is absolutely correct in that. Number 2, hold a year-end review plan, just like we've been talking about, for the New Year's meeting. Hold a year-end review plan for the New Year meeting. It's fun to share with your team everything that you've accomplished in the previous year and see how you're going to challenge yourself in the new year. In other words, hey, what was successful? How do we expound on that? Number 3, set goals for the new year and make an action plan. Try to plan out your marketing at least 3 months in advance. Once we get back to this after COVID, our numbers, he's saying that his numbers return to what they typically were. Number 4, review procedures to see if there's a better way to do things. I love this. There's always room for improvement. The simpler, the better. And that's so true. I mean, there's any business, there's things that you can improve. Number 5, work ahead for projects that you know that you're going to have in the future. So if you're slow, you know this is coming up. Get to work on it now, particularly for artwork, for fundraisers that you're going to do, that you've been doing for years. If it's work you've already done, it's easier for people to say yes when you say, oh, okay, I've got this ready for you. So those are 5 things to do if you're slow in January. I love those.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. Joe of Art Now. Art is a wonderful friend of the show, and he's been on our show before, and these are definitely great 5 things. When you were talking about number 4 there, Terry, review your procedures and stuff, I just could only think of you and your 5215, get those, just make those, do the education, make the improvements, and I love all that. So
exactly.
All right, Terry, before we get into our other events here, I do have that coupon code. I don't know why it escaped me. It's fairly simple. It's STSAVE5. So STSAVE5. If again, if you go to oursuccessgroup.com/resources, and the annual review is right there at the top, and you can just use STSAVE5 and should make it about $5 for you. So
if I entered STSAVE9, will it be free or no?
That is a good thought. There is another code for our OSG members, but it is not that. So.
Is it? No. It's just you and me.
I know. Yeah. So, all right, Terry. So what's coming up for you? The big book of good intentions. What's intention?
Yeah. Well, I heard from my friends at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago actually this morning, and they want to start up in-person classes starting in May. So we're going to schedule 3 classes for 2021. And I need to give a call over to Workhorse and speak to Tyler and see if he's what his feelings are about getting opened up as well, and start doing those in-person classes again. So we're going to be picking dates really in the next few days. So I'll have them up at terrycombs.com on my upcoming events, which is right now blank. So
upcoming events, a lot of sitting up. You just need to put a picture of you sitting in a chair at your house or sitting out by the pool. Upcoming events.
Smoking a cigar. How about you, Aaron? What have you got?
Well, before we go there, I just wanted to ask about the screen printing classes. I know you normally the first thing you guys do is just print a shirt, right? To get that out of the way, get
Correct.
that out of people's systems.
Correct.
Can you guys just go ahead and print a mask instead? Is that?
We could do that actually.
Right. And then you guys just wear them for the
just wear it. Take your mask off, print it. Go wait at the end of the dryer, a safe distance away from everyone. Wait, don't put it on yet. It's hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a little burn across the bridge of their nose.
Terry, I did miss one thing also in the comments that we definitely need to get to here. Rugg said Naven says, the Lord loves a working man. The Jerk is a classic, 0% PC, but a classic. Yes. 0% PC.
All I need is this glass of water, nothing else. This glass of water and this phone, but nothing else. This glass of water, this phone, and
Oh, my. All right. Terry, for me, this upcoming Monday, the 21st, we will be making an announcement at 6 p.m. over at our Facebook page and on our YouTube page. But we're going to be announcing the OSG Future You Party. It's a kind of a get together we're having in early January, kind of to celebrate our success group. And the fact that we'll be a year old then.
Nice.
Yeah, so pretty excited about that. The OSG Future You Party, there's actually a special twist that we're going to have involved. It'll be a digital party still, because it's still early on. If we can do it face to face someday, we will definitely do that as well. Plus, we'll have a little tour for OSG members. So just an announcement kind of explaining what the special twist is for the Future You Party. And it's also a great opportunity if you have questions about our success group. So that's happening at 6 p.m. Center of the Universe time, Central Time. And you can catch it over at liveosg.com or on our Facebook page at facebook.com/our success group pro. And then tomorrow morning, Terry, I will be wrapping up at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. I will be wrapping up the 10 weeks program. It's been a 10-week program where I'm sharing the success principles. So that's happening on Small Business Saturdays tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And this final wrap up, we're going to be talking about what you believe in is up to you. So, and we'll have a nice review of the entire 10 weeks. And plus, I'm going to give people an opportunity, if they'll do a little bit of the work, some of the homework that was kind of assigned throughout the 10 weeks, that if they'll do that and share that I will give them I will participate with them on a free coaching session to work through those success principles. So I will, and I wasn't going to share this, Terry, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there anyhow. I was going to share it tomorrow morning on Small Business Saturdays, but I will also be taking my test immediately after the Small Business Saturdays for my certification. So
very cool.
I've completed all of the modules, been through all the training stuff. So now all I have to do is take the test and send in my essays, and hopefully within 30 days, I will be a actual certified success principles trainer. So
that's very cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. So
that's pre-test. I'm congratulating you, so because I have confidence.
All right, good. Unfortunately, even if I fail, I get to take it again. If they'll give me feedback on what I need to change. But I feel pretty good about it. I've been living this pretty heavily for the last year at least. So
Right.
I'll probably get sick of hearing it, but yeah. So that's what I've got going on. As far as Eric, he has got the Take Up. The reciprocators will be showing up in force. And so that's happening at 2:30 Mountain Time, which is 3:30 Center of the Universe time. So the Take Up, and today it is technical language, standardization, and automation in machine embroidery. And so that'll be a lot of fun. And I actually understand what he's saying this time, unlike last week. But SME does make a lot of sense. It just went right over my head. So
same with me.
But anyways, 2:30 Mountain Time, the Take Up. It's a fantastic program. Even if you're not an embroiderer, you've got plenty to learn. And if you are an embroiderer, there's no other place you should be at 2:30 Mountain Time. So you can catch him on Facebook, facebook.com/Eric.Campbell, or you can catch him on YouTube, again, youtube.com. Eric Campbell, and that's Eric with an H-E-R-I-C-H. And I'm not even going to try the bit.ly. I know you've even got it phonetically out there for us, Eric, but we ruin it every time. So, and then the other thing for Eric, two things actually. He doesn't have this on here, but I'm going to put it out there too to just force him into this. But he's got his Demystifying Next Level Digitizing webinar in recorded format. And I know we've talked about it a lot, but I don't want to stop talking about it because I truly think that there's a ton of value for folks that are embroidery people. Even if you're not digitizing, understanding what Eric taught here, I'm not an embroiderer, definitely not a digitizer. and I learn stuff, so I can talk more intelligently with people as I'm, even if I'm buying embroidery. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. So he talks about better running, bolder, more beautiful embroidery with a faster cycle from concept to completion. And you can get Eric's webinar over at bit.ly/EricDD. And that's, again, Eric with an H, ERICHDD. So check that out. And then the last thing that Eric didn't put on there, but I'm going to pressure him into putting out another webinar this next year in 2021. I'm going to hold him to it. So we haven't picked dates yet. He made the mistake of telling me that he might be interested in that. So we'll see how much he curses at me after we're done.
Hey, you didn't cut your mic, so
yeah, I'm actually shocked, but he does say in the comments, "I'll do it. I have had so many requests." So
awesome.
Do what the people want, Eric. Attaboy.
Give the people what they want, Eric.
Give the people what they want. And then real quick back, Christine said, love the Success Principles series. Sorry to see it end. It's been a great time, and it's really been great to get people in there and have those conversations with them. I'm also, though, very excited about, so not only are we taking off 2 weeks here for Two Regular Guys, but I'll be taking off 2 weeks from Small Business Saturdays. But when we come back on Small Business Saturdays, I'm actually going to be hosting Christine, and we're gonna review the whole series. And I'm so excited to get her take on it. She's been very integral in the comments and participating in the whole series. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what her thoughts are on it and kind of tying that all together. So looking forward to that. Anything else, Terry? I think that may do it, though.
I think we're in bonus time. I thought, as always, that we were going to run short, and we never do. So
I know. I actually, as we were getting started with this, I was thinking, oh boy, are we going to run short? But yes, we're in bonus time. So, Terry, we've come to the close of another show. Cheers to everybody. Thank you so much to all the regulators. We want you guys to have an amazing holiday, happy New Year, and make sure you get that planning done. It will make 2021 so much better. Just make time for yourself. Get an hour alone, whatever it takes. Go get out there and do some planning. So thanks to everybody for being here and being regulators, and high five to everybody.
And Aaron, I'm haven't taken that time right now. I'm off work today through Christmas. I won't be back until the Monday after Christmas. So looking forward to some time off and spending time with family. We want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell. As always, you can find Eric at ericcampbell.com and the Take Up. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Impressions Expo. Be sure to sign up for Impressions Connect, impressionsconnect.com, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah, definitely. And as we talked about, Terry, we are going to be off for the next 2 weeks. So don't worry. Don't freak out if you don't see a show for 2 weeks. We're not going anywhere.
Forget about us.
We will be back for our 9th year, and we're excited about that. But we will be off. We'll see you again in 2021, as we mentioned. And our kickoff show, normally we do the 10 things we like to see, but we had an opportunity to get a guest back on the show. So I think we'll do the 10 things we'd like to see after this January 8th show. But on January 8th, we will have Gordon Firemark back with us. And boy, this year has been lots of conversation about copyright and trademarks, and with all the new people getting into the business, and all the sublimation printers being bought, and all of the copyright stuff we see being printed out there. We're gonna get the real answers. I've seen so much stuff that, and in fact, there were things that the last time we had him on that I'm like, oh yeah, this is the way that it is, and he's like, nope, that's not the way that this is. This is the way that it is. And
same with me. I learned a lot from that show. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, so he will be back January 8th. We've already gathered a whole bunch of questions, but if you guys have certain copyright questions that you have, you can submit them to us early, info@tworegularguys.com, or just make sure to be there and be in the comments. And so that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that, Terry.
All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And we are the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/2regularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/2regularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, 2regularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.